Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of season 2, Heart Talks with Dr. Gloria. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Thomas Anderson, and I'm changing our usual format from where I usually talk with our special guests on various topics to just share a personal message from my heart to yours entitled Tomorrow's Hope, a season of refreshing and renewal in 2021. But first, I want to acknowledge and give my condolences to all of you who have lost loved ones in 2020. I pray for God's continual comfort to comfort your hearts as only He can do. This year has really been tough for so many people, and the pandemic has impacted our lives personally and for others all around the world as well. This pandemic season has brought about so much change in how we live, what we do, and how we communicate and connect with each other, even the way that we say our final goodbyes to those who have passed away. The new year of 2021 is just a few weeks away, and you may be hoping that it will truly be a year of refreshing and renewal. I'm hoping that too. And I'm believing God in faith that we will have a good year in 2021 and that all of the uncertainty about what's going to happen will be put aside and that we will focus in on something good and something wholesome. And our lives also will have that reality. The overwhelmingness of living in this pandemic. There's 3 areas of life that God has shown me to give attention to that I want to share with you today. The renewal of mind, the reaffirmation of meaning in life and living, and the choice of who or what will be the master of all. These 3 areas focus not on the issues of life that we may be dealing with individually and as a society, but on the person of who we are in this changing world where we all live. The external circumstances of life are often not things that we can control, as this pandemic has shown most of us. Yes, it has definitely impacted our lives. Yes, it's still a lot of uncertainty around what's going to happen next. But even with all of that, which is beyond our control, I believe that God's plan for our lives is still in effect. So the 3 areas of focus that I will talk about are internally directed rather than externally focused. These are areas of our lives that we can do something about. The first area of importance is our mind. The mind is the entry point to the path of light or the path that is opposite of light. I remember many years ago when I first wrote the first Inspiring Insights for Your Soul and Spirit message, it contained the phrase, to change your life, you must first change your mind. How and what you believe about yourself, others, and life itself all begins with the thoughts in your mind. And those thoughts, whether they are true or false, good or evil, have created power to manifest into things. For example, this pandemic life is causing many people to focus their thoughts on issues that are stirring up fear and worry and anxiousness and irritability even. These thoughts then become emotional things that can lead to heaviness of heart, depression, and feelings of hopelessness. All of that, which is opposite of what God designed and desires for our lives. Science now supports that the brain can actually reorganize itself by forming new neural pathways or connections to make room in your mind for your thoughts, whether they are positive or negative. It's like your brain is the computer and your thoughts are the programming for it. If a thought seems to be staying around in your mind, the brain says, oh, this thought is going to be here a while. So it makes space for it to have a home or a resting place so that it's easy to think about. Kind of like a shortcut on your keyboard to do a function that you use a lot. Like on my Mac, I use Command C to copy text and Command V to paste it to another document. But the good news is that we can replace the negative thinking to active right thinking. a concept mentioned by Ernest Holmes in 1934 in his writings about mind healing. Here's a powerful quote that I want to share from his work that gives a rationale for guarding our hearts and minds from negativity. He said, "New and wholesome ideas of life and vitality and hope must be accepted and incorporated into the substratum of our mental life so that a more wholesome externalization may manifest in our bodily condition and environment. The real misery of the race is due to its ungoverned thoughts. We must learn to consciously govern the thoughts and ideas that seek entrance into the mind, and to accept only those that are life-giving in their tendency. Suspicion, criticism, selfishness, malice, antagonism, self-pity, and all negative and destructive thoughts and emotions should find the door of our mind fast closed to their entrance, while a glad welcome is extended to their opposite virtues." End of quote. Our mental life is our thought life, and we must consciously be aware of that and shut the door of our minds to those opposing thoughts that do not align with God's word and God's will for our lives. The Bible tells us, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind, that we may prove what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God," in Romans 12:2. Philippians 4:8 tells us to think on these things. What things? Well, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are just, lovely, pure, and of a good report. Some questions to ask yourself: what is on my mind? What is occupying my thought life? And what is playing out in the practical reality of my everyday life? What am I listening to? What am I watching? What am I reading? Remember, everything you do begins with a thought. To change your life, you must first change your mind. And this isn't wishful thinking or lip service. It's deeper than that, and it reaches to the core of who you really are. The second area to focus on in the new year is that of meaning in our lives and having purpose. Our meaning about what life is and living in purpose in this ever-changing world. Many people, again, are asking two questions right now that have been asked for centuries. Why am I here? And what is my purpose? Since the pandemic, a lot of people are wondering about their purpose in relation to an occupation or a job. With half of adults in the US losing their jobs due to this pandemic and they are still unemployed, economic wellness is definitely a major concern. No doubt this is a real impact on all of our lives. But in the big picture of life, this too will pass. Nothing remains the same in this ever-changing world that we live in. And with that said, I want you to consider purpose from a greater, lasting perspective that transcends what you do, but who you are being. Because I believe that purpose is not just the doing part of who you are, it's also the being part of who you are. Francis of Assisi wrote something in the 12th century that still applies, that may be helpful in answering those two questions. Why am I here? And what is my purpose? He said these words: "Keep a clear eye towards life's end. Do not forget your purpose and destiny as God's creature. What you are in His sight is what you are and nothing more. Remember that when you leave this earth, you can take nothing that you have received, only what you have given. A full heart enriched by honest service, love, sacrifice, and courage." We were created for God's glory. And meaning in life, having purpose in life, is more than what your job or your title is more than your talents and your abilities, your appearance, the way you dress, and many of the external drivers that the world says is what success looks like. Unfortunately, the world has both good and bad elements. The Bible says that there are tares or weeds among the wheat, and that they are to grow together until the harvest. That's in Matthew 13, verses 25 through 30, that parable is taught by Jesus. I imagine the tares or those weeds as the opposing forces in our lives that come against our dreams and our hopes and our plans. I see the tares or the weeds as the disruptors and distractors that appear in our lives. Even this pandemic can be seen as a tear that has impacted so many of our lives in ways beyond our natural understanding. We cannot control the tares or the weeds of life, the external things that happen that are beyond our control and beyond our ability to change. But when we are living a meaningful life to the glory of God, the light of God in you shines through the circumstances of life so that others can see their way in the tares or the weeds of this world. Matthew 5:16 says, "Let your light so shine before others in such a way that they may see your good deeds and moral excellence and recognize and honor and glorify your Father who is in heaven." All the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle. That's something Francis of Assisi had said years ago. All of the darkness in the world, if you turn on a light, darkness disappears. It cannot stay. And so, in the midst of all that is going on, the world still needs light. They need love. And we are those conduits for that to happen, for those who don't see, for those that have lost their way. God can use us, and meaning in our life comes by keeping your mind on whatsoever things are good. You don't have to worry or be concerned about the tares in your midst. You can focus on who you are in God and let God deal with the weeds. To experience and know real purpose and meaning is to understand your purpose is to glorify the creator of all, to be a light in the darkness, and to live a life that really matters. Someone sent me a reading years ago that's entitled A Life That Matters. And I want you to think about this as it relates to your own life and purpose as I share this reading. A life that matters. Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, or days. All the things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you were owed. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too, your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived. At the end, whether you were beautiful or brilliant, male or female, even your skin color won't matter. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built, not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter is not your memories, but the memories that live in those who loved you. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstances, but of choice. Choose to live a life that matters. When we look at reaffirming meaning in our own lives, to live a life with purpose and for a purpose, this writing from an unknown author lets us know what really matters and what makes living life truly meaningful. Lastly, we have a choice of who or what will be the master of our lives. Matthew 6:24 says, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. It's not money that's the root of all evil. It is the love of money that is the root of all evil. According to 1 Timothy 6:10, it reads this: for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. It's greed that causes those sorrows and pains, not the money. Some people have made their jobs, their dreams, their desires for success little gods in their lives, distracting or completely taking them away from faith in God, the creator of all. And we don't want to get that twisted in any way, because we need money to live. It's the currency in our society. It's used to provide what we need and what we want to have a good life. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need it for shelter. We need it for food, clothing, insurance, healthcare, and vacations. So money is not the problem. 3 John 2 says, beloved, I pray that in every way you may succeed and prosper and be in good health physically, just as I know your soul prospers spiritually. When a person knows who they are in God and understands that life is a gift from God, they are in a position of true blessing. So for the new year of 2021, I hope that you will consider these 3 areas I've talked about for renewal and restoration: the renewal of the mind, the reaffirmation of all meaning in life and living, and the choice of who or what will be the master of it all. Ernest Holmes wrote another powerful message that resonated with me, that I reworded to be inclusive to summarize the whole of these 3 areas. He wrote, the true self of every person is the microcosm of God. Human life is rooted in a life that is universal and eternal, which life is none other than the life of God. Despite the moral lapses of the race, there is a principle inherent in us that binds us back to God's divine origin. This inner spark of a person's deepest self is their real self and is never separated from its timeless source, God. You know, tomorrow's hope encompasses wholeness and healing of our minds, our bodies, and our souls. It encompasses living a life that matters with purpose and meaning. We get to choose who or what will be our master in this precious gift of life. Our hope for tomorrow is what you may be also hoping for even today. We only have this moment of the present, right? And although we do not know the future or what's going to happen tomorrow, we can still have hope for it. We can look through the eyes of faith, believing that refreshing and renewal will meet us in 2021, regardless of the tears or the weeds that will surely be appearing alongside of us. I pray that you experience a true peace of God that passes all understanding. I pray that hearts will be made whole and healed through the power of God, who touches every living soul with his unconditional and unchanging love, grace, and mercy. I pray for you in this moment of now, knowing that God sees your beginning, your middle, and your end, that nothing is ever, ever, ever a surprise to God. May your hope for tomorrow bring a renewed sense of self, a reaffirmation of purpose and meaning, and a decision to keep trusting God. He is the author and finisher of our faith. In closing, let the words of Francis of Assisi be our prayer. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying to ourselves that we are born to eternal life. Thank you for listening. God bless you. And I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a happy and blessed New Year, filled with tomorrow's hope, a season of refreshing and renewal for your soul and spirit.